Welcome to the Deerwood Realty Show. I'm John Schink, founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty in St. Louis, Missouri. Do you like paying property tax? Like every year? Some states, they have it seasonal, so it doesn't cost as much during the winter or it costs more during the summer. But in general, property tax is no fun. Now, we've had the no income tax. There are many states that have gone with no income tax, which is interesting. Florida being one, Tennessee being one. If you want to talk about economic expansion, those would be places where you're getting more. You're getting a better economy. Is it because of the taxes? I don't know. I have no idea. But I know that's what they're doing now. Municipalities have decided, or states have decided, to maybe look into eliminating property tax altogether. To me, there's one fundamental argument for getting rid of property taxes, and that's you make payments on your house for X amount of years, and you've paid it off free and clear, and now you're still at this situation where, as you get older, there's still an opportunity for the state to come in and seize your property because you haven't paid taxes. It doesn't seem right. Just in general, your property taxes pay for all these things, and I have no problem with that per se. But the way they're set up, let's just go over a few things. So like school, if you're a single person, why are you paying for the school district of the other people? If you're old and your kids are gone, why are you paying for the school district? What if the school district's awful? Where is the recourse? Where is the incentive for the school district to ever not spend your money? It's like that. It creeps into other things too, your emergency services. My entire life in my own community, the city services have gotten more and more expensive, but they're always driving around like new fire trucks. Everything's new. The school district's got everything new. They can never use like a used vehicle. And the money just keeps going out, and we pay for this and we pay for that, and it's all based on property tax. And I just don't know what to think about that. I don't know that it's a good thing. And I think that if you can replace it with something else, I think that's maybe better, maybe more fair for everyone. You shouldn't have to worry about losing your house. Now, what are some of the arguments that you could throw at me just off the top here? Well, you could say that, what about people in condos? They have to pay HOA dues the entire time they own a condo? Okay. You could say, well, what if you rent your entire life? How is it fair that you don't benefit for that? Well, I think on that one, depending on how you did it, you could have lower the owner of the property, if they didn't have to pay property tax, might be able to have lower rents. In a competitive market, is that going to happen? Is that pie in the sky thinking? I don't know. But I did see this article written on Homes.com. Now, Homes.com has decided that they're going to take on Zillow. They were bought by CoStar, and so they are the alternative to Zillow. Zillow bought out everybody a long time ago. Like there used to be, I want to say Trulia. That used to be on its own. Zillow bought that. So there aren't a lot of people in the game besides Homes.com, Realtor.com, which is owned by Move, or now Fox. And then there is Zillow. So let's get into the article. I just wanted you to think about it. I don't think we're going to fix anything today. And the idea of getting rid of property tax makes a tremendous amount of sense to me, but maybe you think differently. If you think differently, put it in the comments below. Here we go. It says, states weigh taking the axe to their property tax. Here's how they'd replace it. Options range from tapping gas revenue to sales and income tax hikes. Well, that doesn't sound so great. It says there is interest in a number of states to put an end to property taxes, but it's unclear whether the political will exists to make that happen. Well, that's the first problem. Do you really see governments trying anything new? Especially if it affects their revenue. More states are toying with property relief strategies as housing valuations rise with inflation, increasing housing costs for Americans. An obvious sticking point if property taxes go away is how much municipalities would cover the cost of essential services such as schools, roads, public safety, parks, and libraries. Well, public schools are failing. They're failing now. I mean, I don't think it's a funding issue. Anyway, why do you think it's okay to make the argument that because housing valuations are rising with inflation, we now need to look at property tax relief? Shouldn't we be looking at property tax relief to begin with? It says in North Dakota, where voters rejected a ballot proposal last November to get rid of property taxes, Governor Kelly Armstrong said in his recent State of the State speech that he still sees that as a goal. State legislators are crafting a bill this month that would give homeowners a credit of up to $1,250 to offset what they pay in property taxes. The average annual single-family home property tax bill in North Dakota in 2024 was $2,868, according to the real estate firm Adam. I am not in a favor of a tax credit to offset what you pay in property taxes. I think that's dumb. That's just taking money from one hand and putting it in the other. No. It says, meanwhile, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has said at the end of March that he wants to see a constitutional amendment on the ballot in 2026 to eliminate property taxes. He proposed replacing this funding with an increased sales tax, arguing that the state's current rate is in the middle of the pack. He said that raising sales tax would put more of the financial burden on Canadian tourists rather than Florida residents, and blamed high property taxes for discouraging people from buying homes in the state. This is kind of an interesting argument. As far as condos, they put forth that new stuff down there in Florida, which has been causing problems. They already don't have an income tax. So we're going to add a sales tax. I have a problem with anyone, when he goes with the Canadian tourists are going to have to pay more money. I don't like that, because if you ever go to a hotel anywhere anymore, there's all these extra taxes that have been added to pay for sports stadiums for billionaires. And it's just stupid. It's stupid. And the reason why the politicians were able to get that by is they say, well, the people here will never need to worry about it because it'll always be visitors. Well, what if visitors don't come to your state? What if nobody wants to be there? It's a horrible place to go. Like Missouri has one. Like St. Louis has one. What are we doing? Not that I'm saying St. Louis is a horrible place. I'm just saying, like, we don't need a new stadium for the Rams. They've been gone now for how long? It says, just living on your own property, you've got to keep writing a check to the government for the privilege, DeSantis said in a speech. You're effectively a ward of the local government, and I believe that. I hope that's not a right-wing or left-wing position. I don't believe that it's right. If you have no payments on your home, that home should be yours outright to do with what you want. It says, some people who study how governments collect revenue say they've heard calls to end property tax for many years because it's the most hated tax. According to David Brunori, who teaches George Mason University's Schink School of Policy and Government, Brunori said that doesn't mean replacing it is financially feasible. It's not going to happen. There's not enough money to replace it. That's what he said. Do you trust projections and all that stuff? Do you really know as an outsider what's going to happen? I don't. Then they're talking about Wyoming. It says Governor Mark Gordon signed a bill in March that gives single-family homeowners a 25% tax exemption on the first $1 million on their home's fair market value. An earlier version of the bill called for 50% exemption along with funds to cities to offset the revenue loss. Even in a state like North Dakota that say they will ensure communities have funding they need, ending property taxes is a bad idea. There are things people want, like someone to answer the phone when you call 911. And it's most efficient to pay for it with local property taxes. It's not efficient to have the state do it. I mean, there was a time when you had all the information on like little pieces of paper, and you needed all these people to shuffle paper to get things done. Now, I mean, the amount of precision that you could have in, where did the sales tax come from? What city, what zip code, and get it back to them through a state mechanism on taxes, I think would be easy, relatively easy. Now, it was not easy in 1950, but now I think it can be done. A bill introduced in the Florida legislature this session calls for a study on offsetting property taxes by raising the sales tax or state sales and consumption taxes. For example, many cities collect taxes on restaurant meals. DeSantis downplayed the negative impact of scrapping property taxes on cities and towns. They'll tell you they won't be able to pay for police or schools. That's just not true, he said in speech. We'll fund that. We'll have a big surplus, or we have a big surplus. This is going to be interesting. You ever kind of look into politics and the fear mongering that goes on? If we don't elect this person, the world is lost, right? The country is lost. But they don't talk about the 16,000 other elections that could have gone better for them. In some ways, I'm happy when politicians say hey, this is what will happen. And then, it does. Because that's what the people wanted. What I despise is when people say, experts say something's going to happen, and then they're so totally wrong. And then everyone's left holding the bag but the people that were wrong in the first place. The state would need to double the tax rate to 12%, the highest in the nation, to replace property taxes entirely, according to the February report by the Florida Policy Institute. We don't know if that's left-wing or right-wing, and even if it's a no-profit, we have no idea. Doing so would result in disproportionately and negatively impacting households with low to moderate incomes, in addition to business and tourists. The Institute said the latter two groups contribute 20% and 14% of Florida's sales taxes, respectively. Sales taxes would also be a less stable revenue source during economic downturns. Well, shouldn't that be the case? If everyone's hurting, should the local governments be able to get windfalls? Doing so would disproportionately and negatively impact households with low to moderate incomes in addition to business and tourists. So, the argument is you're poor, right? And now, instead of paying property tax, you have to pay a higher sales tax for everything you consume, a consumption tax. Have we asked the poor people or the moderate income people if that's what they would rather do and know that they have a home for the rest of their lives? Shifting to sales taxes could affect renters' housing affordability and the state's gross domestic product, said Manish Bhatt, a senior policy analyst at the Tax Foundation, a nonpartisan nonprofit. He noted a study in Indiana that suggested that moving from property taxes to relying on sales and income tax would drop the GDP in the state by about 2.8%. Isn't that odd that you would link renters' housing affordability and the state's gross domestic product? And that's the other thing. Are we taxing rents as sales tax? Why would we do that's doubling? We're double dipping. We're taxing sales. We're taxing. It's just crazy. We're taxing rent in some places, in addition to collecting property tax for the rental. It says in Montana, a state legislative committee rejected a proposal this month to cut homeowners' property taxes and offset the revenue loss with a tax increase on the owners of vacation homes and short-term rentals. The state doesn't have a sales tax it can increase. So, I'm not for this. I don't like short-term rentals, period. I've seen what they do to communities. I don't like increasing taxes on owners of vacation homes. Why should you be punished if you have a home in the state? Doesn't make any sense. An analysis from the Illinois Policy Institute, a research nonprofit, indicated that the increase in income tax would not fully replace property taxes. Illinois' policy predicted it would fall $2 billion short. Well, that's not good. Another bill looks to eliminate property taxes only for those who've owned a home for 30 years or more. The sponsor, Senator Neil Anderson, did not say how that revenue would be replaced. Maybe they won't replace it. It's not an automatic exemption either. Homeowners can secure the relief only if they apply for the exemption, which would be done annually. It's also unclear how many Illinois residents would be eligible. The median homeownership duration in Illinois is about 13 years, according to the National Association of Realtors. I don't know what that means. Like, what do I care? Are they making an argument that no one's going to be able to get to the 30-year exemption? It says Pennsylvania's constitutional amendment is Representative Russ Diamond. That's who we're talking about here. It says, for Diamond, who has proposed the amendment 4 previous times, it's about personal liberties. It's criminal that in our right to acquire, possession, protect property is actually declared in Article 1, Section 1 of our Constitution, Diamond said in an interview. The first section, with only life and liberty themselves coming before it, we don't tax the right to free speech, we don't tax the right to a jury trial, and we don't tax the right to assemble or your ability to go and vote. The representative compares property taxes to paying rent to the government and argues that the state's ability to sell a home with delinquent taxes means homeowners don't truly own their property. I agree 100%. It does mean that. You never own your home outright because the state can come and take it. You should be able to have a place that you can call your own even if you have borrowed money to buy it. Once you pay it off, it should be yours. It's absolutely right. And it should be your children's property if you die. Or somebody else's. You should will it to anybody else. It's not for the government to take your property. Property taxes account for significant portions of local revenue. No joke, really. It says, according to the Tax Foundation, property taxes are responsible for 73% of local revenue. Removing the property tax could leave governments unfunded or underfunded. Oh no! Which impacts local services and has a downstream effect on property value. Prove it. There's a real cost that taxpayers could bear to the outright elimination, said Bat, the Tax Foundation policy analyst. Property values could sink due to a drop in the quality of schools, for example. Where there are good services, there are good property values. Really? It's a bad example for the quality of schools. They're awful. They've gone downhill. There, that was the article. What do you think? I just see it. I see it a singular way, and that is, how is it that you pay for a home, you own it outright, it's yours, and yet if you don't pay taxes on it, the state can take it or the local government can take it. They can seize your property for not paying taxes. It doesn't seem right. It's not. Basically, what you've become is a sharecropper, they used to call them. You're farming the land, but it's not yours. We're serfs. That doesn't seem right in the United States. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. It's a long one today. Things you can do to help me out. If you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate it. Number 1, could you subscribe? Number 2, watch some other videos. My watch time is down so bad. And number 3, if you're in the St. Louis area, or if you know someone that is in the St. Louis area and they're looking to buy or sell a home, perhaps mention my name. Business has been off dramatically. With that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.